My name is Josh Moore, and I am an ISM student at Lone Star High School. In ISM, we have to pick topics of study that we would like to possibly go into one day for our career. And my topic is ministry, but more specifically worship ministry. And I'd like to start off with a quote today. My quote is from Carrie Bourne, who is the women's pastor at my church. Her quote said, "Don't shy away from small things. Nothing is too small. Act before asked, and be an eager servant." This quote is really important because it really exemplifies what true ministry looks like. You have to serve others, whether you're a leader or not. A true leader first is a great servant, and that is something that I have come to learn throughout this process and from being in church my whole life. My mission statement says that my mission is to understand the particulars of pastoral worship and the daily responsibilities in order to be able to truly lead people to encounter Christ. Why did I choose worship? Well, honestly, music's something that I have been involved in and have loved since I was a kid. I've been singing since I'm pretty sure I've been singing since I came out of the womb. I've been doing it all my life. My mom sang. And so ever since I was young, I've been involved in choirs, whether that be at school or at church. I was in the honor choir in my elementary school, the all-state choir in middle school, and the all-region choir once I moved to here. So I've been singing for a while. Guitar I've been doing for about 6 years. I got my first guitar before I moved here. And then once I moved here, I really started taking it seriously and began to really start playing and learning songs. As far as ministry goes, I have been leading worship for FCA here at Lone Star High School for about 3 years now, ever since I've been involved. And then I also lead worship for a few student ministry at my church, and I'm also in the Sunday morning band at Genesis Metro, in which I just play. Ministry as well, I've also been a leader here in the FCA for 3 years now, and I was also an FCA leader in my middle school in Louisiana. I'm also considered a leader in my youth group, and so I've been pretty involved. I also help lead a 2- and 3-year-old classroom at my church. So throughout ISM, we've had to conduct many different research assessments, and through that, I've gotten quite a bit of information on worship and ministry specifically. In worship, there are a few keys and a few qualities that a worship pastor should have. And the first one being a connectedness to God, whether this be through reading your Bible, through prayer, or through going to church. It's very important. You can't just go up there and just do your thing on Sunday morning and expect everything to be all right. It takes a lot more than that. Another quality that you have to have is that you have to be a very good leader, inside and outside of the church. You have to be able to lead those on stage, lead the church, and then also lead the community. In my second assessment, I learned what it meant to be ready and be primed to go into ministry. God's plan is majorly important. If it's not in His plan, it probably won't happen unless you just somehow try to force it to happen. He doesn't put us into situations unless we're ready and unless He knows that we can handle it. And that's something that I've thought of has been really cool just looking at my life. He doesn't put us into those situations unless we are primed and ready. And His plan also has a timeline. What I've figured out, being a very impatient person, is that I, a lot of times, will try to rush what He is trying to do. And I can't do that because you can't really rush God and His plan. Another assessment that I did had to do with God's grace and His love. The cool thing about this is His grace and love covers everything that we've done. Whether it be a sin or a mistake that we have committed, there's nothing that is stronger than His power. And His love and His grace negates everything that we have done. That's probably one of the coolest things that you can look at from Christianity, is that it's great, just the grace that you can experience. And the other thing you have to look at is that while you do make mistakes, you go through those for a reason. God doesn't make you go through a trial or tribulation without reason for it. And one thing that I have seen is, like, just looking at a specific example in my life, my parents divorced. It was a very, very tough time for myself having to go through all of that, but it is something that I've been able to help other students and other people around my age deal with their parents' divorces if they're just going through it. And then, this is my last one. Yes, on one of my last few assessments, I learned about some reasons to lead. And the biggest thing is a lot of people think that worship pastors just get on stage on Sunday and just go out there and put on a concert. And that's not really what it's about at all. You are up there to help lead people to the cross. You're up there to prepare people's hearts to hear the message that the pastor is about to preach on, or just prepare them for what God is about to do in their lives. And so that's one of the coolest things, is just to be able to see people just break down in worship and just truly be immersed in their situation. My last assessment had to do with mistakes. A lot of people will assume that Christians are supposed to be perfect people. That's actually completely 100% wrong. We are all human, and so we all mess up, we all make mistakes. The biggest thing that is supposed to separate Christians, doesn't necessarily do it all the time, is how we react to those mistakes and those situations. As Christians, God calls us to be humble, and for me, what I've seen is a lot of times you have to step back from whatever it is that you're doing and really reevaluate why you're there or what you're doing that for. So whether you're in a leadership position or you're just serving in a class, you have to really determine whether or not you're there for the right reasons. Are you there to help further the kingdom, or are you there for yourself, to make yourself elevated? Another cool part about this class is that we have been able to conduct interviews throughout, and I've gotten a lot of information from these interviews, actually. My first interview was from Carrie Bourne, and like I said, she's the women's pastor at Genesis Metro Church. What I got from her is just learning some qualities of a worship pastor that she looks for, and her leading worship, it kind of made sense that it came from her. And some of those qualities had to do with being a leader, also being spiritually grounded. And like I said earlier, being a leader and being spiritually grounded, it has to do with staying connected. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. It has to do with staying connected, whether that be through reading your Bible or going to church. You have to stay connected. You have to be able to lead. And with worship, it's not, like I said, it's not like you just get up there and it just happens. There's a practice beforehand, before Sunday, whether it be on Thursday night or whatever. You have to practice, so you have to make sure you have everything down with the band. You have to be able to lead on Sunday. If you feel that something is just moving and you want to just keep going through that set, you have to be able to learn the signal to lead everybody else and to let them know that you're not done yet, you're going to keep going. Another thing that you have to be able to do is you have to be able to handle adverse situations. A lot of times in ministry, there ends up being some awkward situations or some tense situations that you have to deal with. And the best way to deal with that is obviously through humility, and you can't put yourself out in front. You have to listen to everybody, but you also can't let everybody get to you. In my second interview, I interviewed Jeremy Bro. He is the associate pastor at my church, Genesis Metro. And this one was really cool because I got to learn a little bit about the hiring process, as well as what daily life of ministry looks like for him specifically, but what it could look like for anybody. What he told me about hiring is that a lot of churches don't necessarily look for somebody that is fresh out of seminary or that has some major theological doctrine. A lot of churches want to see somebody that has completed a degree. And mainly this is just to see that they're able to stick through and to finish something. Something else that he said, though, is a plus, is hiring somebody that has experience in a church. Hiring somebody that's just fresh out of the world, it doesn't make sense to hire somebody full-time to be a worship pastor because they don't necessarily know what that dynamic looks like inside of a church. Daily ministry, it can be very hands-on. Jeremy happens to walk through the church, I think he said every Thursday, and to look at maintenance issues to see if there's something that he can fix or if there's somebody that he needs to hire in order to fix it. So that was something that was kind of cool that I hadn't even thought about, that maybe that's something that I would have to do. My third interview was with Tim Borman. He is the executive pastor at my church, Genesis Metro. This was a really cool interview as well because he talked about being called. And Tim has a really cool story with the aspect that he was saved at the age of 16 and started preaching from then on. He moved out to Frisco about 12 years ago and just started the church from nothing. He and his wife had to work dining tables and just anything they could to make ends meet and to keep the church going.